welcome to everyone, no matter where you are around this big, beautiful country of ours. I know a lot of you are probably in lockdown, so thank you very much for joining us. And I hope you're all keeping well and safe if you are in lockdown or if you do have some freedom at the moment. So we're just waiting for a few people to drop in. I can see the numbers wearing up. We do apologise for keeping you waiting. We're a little bit late in starting, and that's because we're having some technical issues, and we are still waiting for our planned moderator to arrive, but you've got your stand-in Jackie Owen from the College of Law coming to you with our esteemed panel. So hopefully Jane will be joining us shortly and can take over. So thank you very much for joining. This is actually our second session for our Careers Academy, the College of Law Careers Academy. We started with our Legal Futures panel earlier today, and that was very successful. And so we're going to our second panel for the evening, which is our Going to the Bar panel. And so we've got Jessica Goldie coming to you from up on the Darling Downs in Queensland, in Toowoomba specifically. We've got Emma Fitzgerald coming to us from Brisbane. We've got Greg Lascaris coming to us from lockdown in Melbourne. So welcome, Greg. And we've got Charlotte Campbell also coming to us from Brisbane. So welcome, everyone. I might actually get some assistance from Charlotte to assist with moderating this discussion. So thanks for that, Charlotte. Well, first of all, what we might do is get everyone to introduce themselves. They can cover off on a little bit of a brief bio about their career, what areas they practice in, what age and stage of life they were with when they sought to go to the bar, and a little bit about your experience in general. So Charlotte, did you want to kick off with that? She's a very, very new to the ranks of barristers, so we're really excited for you to share more. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you. So I'm Charlotte Campbell. Before I came to the bar, I was a solicitor for about 6 years. So for 5 of those years, I practiced exclusively in personal injury. So doing work injuries, motor vehicle accidents, and public liability claims, so slip and falls. So doing that for 5 years, worked my way up to be an associate doing that. Then for the last year I was in practice, I practiced only in institutional abuse. So doing claims against churches and organisations for people who've experienced sexual abuse. So I went to the bar 6 years PAE, which for me was really great because at the stage of life I was in, I'm still relatively young, trying to hold on to that. So young enough to sort of have that energy coming to the bar, to pull a few late nights, study for the exams that we need to do up in Queensland to go to the bar. And I've just really enjoyed it so far. I love life at the bar, and I'm sure I'll get to a little bit more about that later. But I'm sort of relatively young, don't have kids. So that was sort of my journey to the bar. And now at the bar, I'm doing personal injuries, a bit of family and a bit of employment, just to see if I like something else that's out there as well. That's sort of my journey to the bar.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Charlotte. And we were very excited to see it announced on LinkedIn earlier this year when Charlotte announced that she was going to the bar. We're very proud of her. She's a great friend of the College of Law. So Jessica, tell us about your journey and when you decided that it was time to make the move.
So thanks, Jackie, and hi everyone out there tonight. So I started off at the DPP and I was there for about 10 years, first as a clerk and then a legal officer, and then still worked my way up as a Crown Prosecutor and then a Senior Crown Prosecutor. And then it was about 8 years post-admission that I went to the bar, and there was a couple of things that was going on as to why I jumped. One of them was that I was practicing in the Toowoomba DPP office and my husband was at the bar here, and because it's quite a small town, Toowoomba, it was quite difficult to manage the juggle where if he had a file, I had to return it. But there was only 2 Crown prosecutors in the office, so it got a little bit tricky in terms of managing conflicts between him and I. So that was one of the reasons. Another one of the reasons was that we'd finished having kids I didn't really need paternity leave anymore, which obviously was quite beneficial being for the government. So I thought, well, this is a great time. We've finished having kids. I don't need to take maternity leave. I jump out, the bar, and I had that experience. Sorry, someone's struggling to hear me. Should I put earphones on? Can you hear me, Jackie?
Yeah, maybe put earphones on. That might. There's a little bit of an echo.
Okay. Well,
why don't we hand over to Emma and then come back to you?
Come back to me and I'll find some earphones.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Jessica. Emma, you're also very recently to the bar after a career as a solicitor, so we'd love to hear a bit of your story.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Hi, everyone. I, like Jess, went to the bar at 8 years post-admission. I'd done a few different things, been through a few life hurdles as well. So my background was in government, personal injuries, and I also set up the financial abuse prevention team at the Women's Legal Service and worked for Clarissa at Happy Lawyer, Happy Life just prior to coming to the bar. At the moment, I'm working mostly in personal injuries, some abuse law work, and also doing some domestic violence and family law work as well. I lost my job, got divorced, became homeless, got diagnosed with anxiety and depression, all of that before I came to the bar. So don't think that, if you go through some difficult things that you can't still go on to kind of chase whatever it is that you're dreaming about doing. If it is coming to the bar, reach out to someone. Yeah, look forward to chatting to you all a bit further.
Thanks for that, Emma, and thanks for sharing part of your story as well. That's so personal. We really appreciate it, and it does show that you're a shining example and a real role model of what people can accomplish when they do put their minds to it, no matter what. So thank you very much. We might go back to Jess and see how she sounds now with earphones in. She may have frozen on my. Jess, are you there? All right, we'll let the technology catch up with us and maybe jump to Greg and hear some of his story about. And we've got a question: what motivated you to go to the bar, and a little bit about your story and bio.
Well, for me, I left school and finished year 12 and did a double degree in engineering and business to start with. Finished that, started in the industry a bit and figured out it wasn't for me. So then I said, all right, I'm going to do something else. So I became a police officer, did that effectively for a couple of years, patrolling the streets. I became a prosecutor, which you don't have to have, strictly speaking, a law degree to be a prosecutor doing summary crime here at least. But you do the relevant courses and some bits and pieces, and I just figured out how much I absolutely loved crime and loved the law. And so I finished a law degree and sat the bar exam just within a month of becoming admitted. So what motivated me was, I guess, loving law and loving advocacy. So, a big thing for me, I love getting up on my feet and, having to think fast and, try to be at least persuasive, try to get, the bench to make a decision that they probably don't want to make. And this gave me an opportunity to, I guess, expand, my horizons there. So in terms of stage of life, didn't really think too much of it. It's just, I really love it. I want to do it. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try.
Fantastic. So really interesting to see the different paths that people have come from, and from engineer to barrister. You wouldn't have thought that on your first day of engineering class, I'm sure. So excellent. We've got Jessica now, and we might go back and hear a little bit more about your story, and hopefully the audio is working okay. And a question that we have had was that we'll throw into the mix, Jessica, is what was your motivation, or what motivated you to make that decision to go to the bar as well?
Well, two things. Like I was saying before, and I'm not sure how much you heard me, but is the speaker better? Sorry, Jackie, can you hear me better now?
Yes, I wonder if Nella or someone who is struggling can let us know if that's better.
Well, I'll just keep going, and if someone
it does sound better for me.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, so because my husband was at the private bar here in Toowoomba, and it was such a small town, there was a lot of conflicts between us because we obviously can't go against each other. So I had to return a lot of files if he was on the other side. So that got a bit difficult. But the other, the big motivator for me too was in Toowoomba, I got as far as I could get with the DPP without having to move back to Brisbane. And I wasn't keen to move to Brisbane. So I thought, well, where's the next step to progress my career? And that naturally the next step was to go to the private bar as well.
Excellent. We do have a little bit of, it's still not perfect, but I'm just letting everyone know that you will get sent the recording, so it should sound better on the recording. So we do apologise. And we're going to be joined any moment now by Jane Fitzgerald. She's just coming through. I do apologise that we were having some technical, the beauty of Zoom is that we can come into your home from our homes and chambers and be with you all over Australia. But of course, the challenge of technology is sometimes it just doesn't work how it's supposed to. So welcome, Jane. Thank you very much for joining us. So sorry about that you were having problems. I'll just let you know where we're up to. We've welcomed everyone, and that was absolutely perfect timing, as always, Jane. And we've just chatted to everyone about when they came to the bar, what their motivation, what areas they practice in. So I'll hand over to you to go to the next questions that we have, and we've got some really great questions coming in on the question and answer, just so that you know. I'll slip off, but I'll be here if you need me.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and I do apologise to everyone. Technology got the better of me this evening, and I do apologise. But I'm so happy that you were able to meet our wonderful panellists who have given up their time so that you can get some ideas and ask all those questions that you might not otherwise get a chance to ask about coming to the bar. As you will have heard, everyone's got their own sort of story about coming to the bar, and there is no right time. I hope that what you got from their answers is there's no right time. Please don't let anyone tell you that you've missed the boat or that the boat's not there yet or whatever, because we all make our own journey through this pathway of law, and it's the same at coming to the bar. So there is no right time. I should say that all of our wonderful panellists are here this evening sharing to the best of their ability their life stories and circumstances. We don't claim to be the experts on anything, but I hope that in sharing with us some of our circumstances that we've faced, you can get a bit of an idea of what it might be like if you have this passion that you think maybe the bar's for you. Maybe coming and joining our side of the bar table is something that you'd like to do. So I understand that we've dealt with how people came to the bar. What I wanted maybe is to now sort of make sure that we're all on the same page. So Emma, can I ask you, what, in your words, what is the role of a barrister as compared to, say, a solicitor?
I think a barrister is really the specialist advocate who deals with appearing in court, but also advising about things that are related to that. So looking at evidence, looking at further evidence that you might be required, and taking that kind of detailed look at a matter, where when you're a solicitor, many of us and many of those watching probably have lots and lots. I was going to say hundreds, but I didn't want to assume lots of matters. So just taking that really kind of detailed look at a file. And what do you agree with that? Oh, we've lost you, Jane.
Sorry, Greg. I was going to ask what you felt the difference was. We're all part of the same team, but what does a barrister do that a solicitor might not do or be responsible for?
Oh, look, I think from my experience, at least, it really is almost like a bit of a specialist advocacy role in that respect. I mean, it's not to say that solicitors, solicitor advocates can't run their own proceedings or hearings, and they're more than capable of doing it. They're brilliant, but it's I find that's where the main contrast is, and having responsibility for a particular matter, and also I guess solicitors, I guess in crime at least, which I practice in, they don't have the opportunity to be able to go out there to all the courts all on the same day. So they need an ability to be able to brief matters to barristers. It can't be at 5, well, actually at the moment with the Zooms and WebExes and all that, they're finding it a little bit easier, but they can't be at 5, 6 different court places at once to manage their appearances. So they look to a barrister to be able to take the case and assist them.
Charlotte, how did you find the transition moving from being in practice to coming to this part of practice?
Yeah, it definitely was a bit weird for the first couple of months, because you go from being the person who's asking for counsel's advice to being the person who is giving the advice. And sometimes you have solicitors who you've worked with for years sort of coming to you, asking a really complex question. And it's a bit unsettling at first, but you do eventually settle into a groove where you realise that, you know, you are the counsel, you can do the work and you can give the answer. So it's a bit of a weird dynamic at first, especially coming from a firm and then them sort of getting you to do this different work. But I've enjoyed it so far, but it is a bit weird, I'll be honest.
Jessica, is there anything you miss about life before being a barrister? Your professional life before being a barrister?
I mean, sometimes it was different coming from like a group office. We go into the office every day and there's, you know, 20 people who are working together, and you can sort of float ideas off people who are right there in the office next to you, and then suddenly you go to the bar. And sometimes it can be a little bit more isolating. You sort of go to your room, and even though we're in a chambers, often a lot of people aren't here because people might be often, especially regionally, people are, you know, Goldie, they're at Warwick, they're at Brisbane, they're in Ipswich. They're not always in Toowoomba, and so like a lot of times you get in chambers, there's no one here. So probably the only thing I miss is that walking the office every day, you know, saying hi everyone and doing the rounds, but you don't really get that in chambers.
Yeah, and that's one of the key differences, I think. We don't often think about when we're coming to the bar. We think about what is the job. Is very different. We don't operate in firms. We're not employees. Of course, there are people who are, particularly here in Queensland, we still call our employed barristers barristers, and they are barristers in every way, shape and form, but they work for places like the government or the DP. And so that has, I think, some real excitement. Challenges, if I might be more honest about what that means for all of us. So, Greg, can I ask you, because you're in Victoria, so how do you operate your business as a barrister in Victoria?
Well, the way I operate, so I have my chambers in the city, so it's predominantly a crime floor. And the way that I tried angling myself there was to be on a crime floor with that ability, knowing that it could be quite isolating at times, and, you know, having your own business in that way can be quite challenging. To maybe try and offset with, hey, I've got this question, I've got this issue, and you have that ability now to bounce ideas, for example, with and have a round discussion with others, as you know, on the floor, for example, that would be willing to assist you. So I find, in terms of running my business, there's the chambers there. There's that sense of camaraderie, at least from what my experience has been, at least, that's. How
do you get your work, Greg? How do you get briefs in? Okay,
for the most part, it's a bit of a mix. So I'll have a clerk. I'm associated with a list. My clerks there will give work to me through solicitors. Will call them, for instance, and they'll ascertain who's available, for example. And if they want to brief me, they'll brief me. But I'd say probably 80% of my work now is from either associates or colleagues from, or I say colleagues, not the right word, but people that I know from solicitor firms that I might have done a job for them previously and they want to use me for another job now. And so they come direct to me as opposed to going through my clerk, and they say, hey, you're free on this date, and then I'll manage my diary that way.
Okay, can we pause there just while we're on clerks? So Greg, what's the arrangement? So do you, does the clerk work for you? Do you work for the clerk? How does the clerk get paid? How do you get paid?
It's an interesting relationship. Look, I love my clerks. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry if you hear my dogs barking in the background at home, but to say you work for each other, look, they help you bring in work. They also help you, at least my clerks will help me with, they're sure they'll manage your diary, but they'll also help chase up outstanding invoices, for example, from from solicitors. And so they help with a lot of jobs like that. They'll set up the framework so you can invoice easily or manage your jobs or whatever the case may be, CBD points, you name it. And as part of that, I think it's roughly 3 or 3.5%, something like that, or whatever you invoice goes to your clerk. I think. So
now, Emma, you've got a really interesting clerking arrangement. You're part of Hemmett's List, aren't you? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so Hemmett's List in Queensland is kind of a modern version of the clerk system. So I'm on a list, and that list assists me with business development, with telling people about me, telling them about the kind of work that I can do. And also one other part that I wasn't really expecting when I joined the list is it really helps me to connect with other barristers, Queen's Counsel, really interesting barristers who might let me go to court with them, let me help with some work, let me help on files. So it's kind of that networking with other barristers as well, which I really wasn't expecting and I really value from being on the list.
So then for my other people in Queensland, how do we get jobs? Because we don't have clerks generally. How do we get work? Who wants to take that one?
I can take it. So since coming to the bar, I've had a lot of coffees with people, and I've found that a lot of the briefs I've received so far have been from people I know or from referrals from people I know. So a lawyer saying to their juniors, oh, the Charlotte Campbell girl's all right, can you give her a brief? And then that's how I've got a lot of my work, just through word of mouth. And that's a really big thing with coming to the bar, is your reputation. It's absolutely everything. So that's been really a big key for me in getting work. We don't have clerks. It's just me trying to drum up some work. So a lot of coffees with solicitors, lots of catch-ups.
So we've had a question, and along that theme, Charlotte, of, you know, you do a good job and someone might think that you're all right and get you another job. Can I ask, Jess, I might throw this one to you. We've been asked, what are some personality and professional traits that make a successful barrister? What do you try and emulate? What are the traits that you try and possess?
Well, I actually don't think there is a certain trait or personality that makes a certain barrister, because I know when I was a clerk at the DPP when I first started out, which I started in Toowoomba, and there's only 2 barristers here in Toowoomba, and they were both male, and they both had a very specific advocacy style, which was very like old school sort of bulldog type barristers, if you can imagine that, in cross-examination. And I remember as a clerk at the time, I never thought that I could be a barrister, because I thought, well, that's not my personality. I'm not the one to, you know, jump in and attack someone in cross-examination. That's just not my style. So I sort of thought, I never really envisioned that I would become a barrister. And it wasn't until I worked in other areas of DPP, you know, across the state, and I saw a different version of a barrister. I saw female barristers. I also saw males who had a different personality to that. And I realised that there's actually lots of different styles, lots of different personalities, and we all just use the strengths that we have, you know, our own advocacy style, and we're all just different. And I know some solicitors might brief me for a matter which I would bring my personality strengths to that case. And then they might not brief me in one where they need someone to be, example, maybe more attacked in that sort of old school bulldog style. They might not brief me for that, but they might brief me in other ways where my personality gives the strength to that sort of case. So I don't think you can really pigeonhole what sort of personality suits a barrister best, because I think everyone just has different advocacy styles at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that there's sort of two parts to it. I think every matter is different,
Yeah.
and you need to pick and choose your barrister for the matter that you've got. You know, what do you need? Do you need someone? Do you need a silk? Do you need a junior? Do you need someone who has the ability to use a softly approach sometimes, and other times smack someone between the eyeballs? But just on that side, that's the matter. But the other thing is, I think we are all different. So I can't put on a big deep voice and be, you know, a large Rumpole of the Bailey style person. I'll look ridiculous. So I bring my own skills to the table, but the matter brings its requirements to the table. And I think the real key is being able to marry those two things together. So I agree. I don't think there's a pigeonhole within which you must fit. But I think that it is about, and it's like whether you're picking a barrister for a court case, whether you're picking a barrister to write an advice, whether you're picking a barrister to be a mediator or an arbitrator, what is it you need this barrister to do? I think the interesting thing is we are guns for hire. You hire us today and you don't hire us tomorrow. So we are very specific for the task at hand. So you can pick and choose as you like. We're getting lots and lots of questions about how to become a barrister, so about the requirements to become a barrister. Now, the first thing I should say is it's different in each state, so we need to be very careful about which state you are operating in and you wish to operate in. But Emma, can I ask you, because you're doing a great job helping me out with the chat, can you let us know what are the requirements, say, in Queensland for coming to the bar?
So in Queensland, there are admission exams that you need to pass. There are 3 of those. And if you pass those exams, which are very difficult, so if you're planning to do it, do set aside, I would say 6 to 8, 9, 12 months. What, you know, do you agree with that, Charlotte? Can I just, and Jess and Jane? Oh, Jane, you didn't, you've been at the bar a long time. Just, do you agree with that?
I didn't have the exam, sorry, Emma, sorry. Okay. I didn't have them around either.
Well, so, you know, perhaps Charlotte can speak about that as well, but we spent together, Charlotte and I actually studied together for the exam. So we spent a really serious amount of our weekends leading up to planning to pass those exams. Once you pass them, then you get offered a place in a course, which goes for 6 weeks. And after you complete the course, essentially within sort of 1 to 2 weeks after that, you can then go and apply for your practicing certificate as a barrister.
So how long's the course, Emma, in Queensland?
It's 6 weeks, but if you include the amount of night work that you're doing, you're probably fitting more than 6 weeks into 6 weeks.
And what is the course about? I teach on the course. So for all of these people from Queensland, they've all met me before in the course. They get to see me on the first day. I always say it's one of the most rewarding things I ever did. It was one of the most difficult things I ever did, but it was very rewarding to get through it. I think, would Charlotte and Jess, would you agree with that? You know, putting in the work, did you feel satisfied at the end of it? You felt like you were not bulletproof, but well prepared?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was difficult, but it was worth it. Like, you do learn a lot in the course. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got your 12 months readership after that, where one of the questions we've got is, can you work as a solicitor during that time? No, you can't. You have to be at the bar doing barrister work. So you have to have left your job and be on the roll as a barrister. And that differs state to state. Some states have fused professions where solicitors and barristers are on the one roll. Here in Queensland, we're separated. Greg, how long is your course and what are the requirements in Victoria? I'm sorry, I don't have a Sydney person here, but I know that they're similar to the Victorian requirements.
Yeah, so the hurdle requirement to begin with is an exam. So I can safely say it's the hardest law exam that I've ever had to do. So that was quite intense, you know, in terms of study and preparation. 75% pass mark just to be considered, and then you wait your turn for a reader's course. That course goes for 12 weeks. So that you pass the exam, woohoo, that's great, and then you've allocated a reader's course, 12 weeks. And then upon successfully completing the requirements of that course, that's when you sign the roll. And that's when you're effectively eligible to get your barrister's practicing certificate. And then following that, you're effectively out on your own under, your readers period with your mentor, and that lasts for a further 9 months. And so that's the process.
Yeah. Okay, great. Terrific. We've got lots of questions about, can I pick and choose my course? Can I think, my goodness, those Queenslanders, they've got COVID under control. We might go and do the course in Queensland if I'm living in a different state. Does anyone know the answer to that one? Yes, Greg?
Oh, sorry, I was just reading. Do you get one of the questions, Tanella? For the 12 weeks, no. So when you're coming to the bar, the question was, do you get paid during the 12 weeks ready to the course? No, you don't. So during the course, I'm not sure if anyone else. In terms of, sorry, I got distracted by
That's okay. Let's deal with that issue now because we're getting those questions. So no, you don't get paid during the course. No. You don't get paid during the course in any state, and you will have to have left your job. Can I get an indication, say, Charlotte, how much does it cost to do the exams and the course here in Queensland? Ballpark.
I think the exams are about 500 and the course is about $6,000.
Yep. So you got to, if you do have to do the exams more than once, you have to pay the fee more than once, then you have to pay the course fee. Greg, what's the course fee in Victoria? Ballpark. Not going to hold you to it.
Oh, the course fee is roughly about $7,000. So
yep.
It's in and around that ballpark. And similar for the sitting the exam, similar, it's about $550 or something like that per attempt.
Exactly. So coming to the bar, you will have had to have either taken leave from your job to do the course, or have left your job to do the course, and then pay the fees for the exams and for the course. Once you come to the bar, different states have different readership periods, but once you come to the bar, you must have left your job. So in Queensland to be a barrister, I have to go off the role as a solicitor and come onto the role as a barrister. I can't exist on both roles. So I'm trying to get work. I'm trying to comply with my readership requirements. I'm trying to have lots of coffees with people. I'm getting too much caffeine, but I'm meeting lots of lovely people. I'm calling on silks and judges and trying to drum up work that way. So that's, your first year at the bar is busy, and it's a steep learning curve, I would suggest, for everyone, because it is your own business and you can make wonderful choices about what time you start in the morning and what time you finish at night, and where your chambers are and how they operate, those sorts of things. But it's also all down to you. So I often say I've got the worst boss in the world because she's horrible. But the freedom of making those choices comes with the responsibility, obviously, for making the consequences for making those choices. So a question about sitting the bar exam in Queensland and practicing in another state. So here in Queensland, in order to hold your practicing certificate here, you must have chambers here and you must operate here. So you can sit the exam whilst you're sitting in a different state, but you won't actually get qualified here in Queensland unless you're operating here. If you, for instance, got qualified in Queensland and then want to go and practice in a different state, there are arrangements that are mutual recognition between states, and also rights of appearance, even if you didn't want to be certified in a different state. For instance, I can appear in any state in the country. I just happen to hold a practicing certificate for Queensland. So those arrangements are similar between states. Presently, there's some new legislation coming in about mutual recognition. So I suppose watch this space for those questions. I wanted to then turn to getting real about some things. We mentioned before about isolation at the bar because you don't have a firm behind you, and we sort of all work for ourselves. Emma, can I talk to you about maybe some of the strategies that you've seen other people employ or that you've employed to deal with, particularly in COVID, but just I think any time, dealing with the mental load of being a sole practitioner and being a barrister?
Yeah, definitely. I think, for me personally, I've seen a psychologist for many, many years. So I feel like I already have in place, the sort of support system for me. for myself personally, I really try to make sure that I am trying to connect with other people on a daily basis. So if I'm in chambers in the city, I always try to say hi and have some of those small conversations that we tend to have when we have colleagues. And I try to make sure I also get sunshine. And I think those are the main things that I sort of try to do.
I think one of the key things is you've got to think about that aspect of your business as well. You've got to proactively manage that as well. Jess, being out in the regions, what sort of extra challenges does that face in terms of isolation?
It's probably similar challenges. I mean, you just have to make a bit more of an effort, whereas before, as I said, you might just rock up when everyone's there in the office. Now you've sort of got to reach out to people and be like, hey, do you want to have coffee? Do you want to go for lunch? Sort of make more of an effort to make sure you connect to people. Because on one side, it's good for drumming up business, but it is also good just to get you out of, a bit of isolation, the chambers sort of thing. Yeah.
Charlotte, what other challenges? What did you find most difficult about coming to the bar?
I'm a massive extrovert, so being by myself for so long is really hard. So I try and make sure that I see people for lunch or for a coffee a few times a week, because otherwise I'll go insane. Yep. And also for myself, there's sort of two stresses when you come to the bar. The first one is the work coming in. You stress, oh, is anyone going to give me work? What the hell am I going to do? How am I going to feed myself? But then when you get the work in, the second stress comes in of, oh my God, can I do this? Oh, I can't do this. I'm going to stuff this up. So sort of trying to manage and block out the negative thoughts and just sort of try and ruminate on the work is coming in or it is going to come in, and then just sort of settling down when you get a brief and go, I know what this is about. I can sort this out and I'll produce a really good piece of work.
Yeah, great. Greg, so turning to the other side of the coin, what's one of the biggest rewards that you think that the bar has presented you with?
For me, one of the biggest things is independence. So everyone will have their own story, but from where I came from, I'm curious to see what Jessica thinks about this, but and it's not a criticism, so I don't want to be coming across wrong here, but I felt as if my forensic judgment in a matter was limited to, say, what a supervisor felt, for example, or something along those lines, which you don't really have that so much, at least I find, for the work that I'm doing. So I find as if that independence and that ability, for example, to say, well, I want to concentrate my practice into this area and simply do this. You have that luxury, and it's for example, if I don't want to do family violence intervention or what matters, I just tell my clerks, please don't book me for those. The flexibility and the independence for me is something that's probably one of the biggest things, if not the biggest.
So Jess, can I ask you, I know you've got kids, so flexibility, is that a reward at the bar, or is it a challenge, or is it both?
I actually think it's both. So some days you can be more flexible. You don't have court on. You can say, you know what, I'm going to go do something else. I'm not coming in the office. You don't have to seek a boss's permission or whatever for not coming in. But on the flip side, if you've got court on and the kids are sick, there's no calling up and saying, hey, I'm having a sick day today because my kids are home sick. You've just got to try and make some other arrangements because the court's going to go on whether or not your kids are sick, and you've got to be there.
Yeah.
So it's pros and cons, I think.
Yeah. Emma, what do you think is one of the biggest rewards that you've received since coming to the bar?
I mean, I've always wanted to go to the bar, so I love it. I love the advocacy part of it, but I also love not having any anxiety if the traffic is bad, or if, of course, unless you are appearing in court. I just love being in charge of myself. It's really good.
Yeah, great. I've got questions coming about what does an average day look like, or a usual day look like for barristers, and I think that will be as diverse as the people on the panel or in life, or week to week. There will be periods where you're in court every day and periods where you won't see the inside of a courtroom for weeks. There will be periods where you've got mediations up the wazoo, and then other times where I just love to negotiate something instead of me having an argument with someone. So I don't think there is any usual day. I think too, I think this is a real challenge, particularly since COVID, but what does your usual day look like in times when we're working from home? Your day seems to morph from one day to the next. And if we're not leaving home, it can be really hard sometimes. I think for everyone, not just for barristers, but I mean, my morning started this morning at 3 a.m. because I was in court today. So it's managing that, because it is down to you, and you have that freedom to take on the work that you want and to manage your day the way that you want to. For me, I actually like getting up early in the morning. Makes me feel calmer. If I've been up and done a few hours work before I get into the courtroom, for other people, that would be horrific. So everyone's day looks different, and you just have to work out what works for you, I suppose, which is a typical lawyer answer to a question. One of the things that I really wanted to find out from people, because I have a lot to do with people when they're coming to the bar and in their first year at the bar, I wanted to ask each of you, what 3 things are you glad that you did, or that you wish you would have done to prepare you to come to the bar? Charlotte, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure. One thing I'm grateful that I did is I saved up enough money to cover myself for a period of months at the bar, so I didn't have to worry about money coming in the door. So that meant I could just focus on doing a really good job for my first few briefs. And I knew that, well, hopefully that I'd get repeat work out of that. Whereas I think if I didn't have that money saved up to cover me for my personal and my business expenses, I'd be sort of stressing, trying to do really quick work that may not be my best work. So having that less stress was really good for me. I think one thing I wish I had have done more was keep a better bank of templates or cases or some sort of repository of knowledge for coming to the bar, because I find now that I'm having to do things for the first time, even though I may have done that thing before. So that's probably my 2 things. I don't have 3, sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Emma, what do you wish you would have done, or what did you do that was really good?
So I've got 2 things other than financial planning, which picks up on what Charlotte said. So the 2 things that I did do, which I'm really glad that I did, is one is build my profile. So, I've done a lot of going to events, speaking on events, talking about my experience, and I feel like that's really helped me. And the other one is building my legal community. So supporters who are more senior to me, not going to be my clients, but just people that I can go to and seek advice from.
Excellent. All right. Greg, hit me with a couple of things that you did or that you wish you would have done.
Well, I really liked what Charlotte said, both about the saving of the money. That's something that, well, my wife and I were conscious about. And then also what I didn't do in terms of the, setting up templates and whatnot. One thing, though, if I was going to add something to it, and I guess it's similar to what Emma was saying, I guess, is knowing that there was a long-term plan, I guess, to come to the bar, at least in the lead up. I wasn't afraid to take on as much as what I could to try and expand my experience whilst I was under the umbrella of an employer, for example, and just get my hands on absolutely everything. So, you're working twice as hard as anyone else, for example, getting paid the same, but it didn't matter because, there was a reason behind it. And I found that helped, at least me, with quite a few of the things that I did at the start.
Excellent. Jess, what worked? What didn't? What do you wish you would have done? Or what did you do that was great?
Yeah, well, I agree with what Greg was saying. I think, and Emma, like building your experience before you go to the bar. whilst there's no right time, I think it would be difficult to go straight to the bar if you hadn't had experience beforehand. So one of the benefits of starting off at the DPP is you had that experience of running jury trials where you're under the umbrella of an employer, because once you go to the bar, the buck stops with you effectively. You're out there on your own. So I think it would be quite daunting to run a jury trial on your own when you go to the bar. Whereas if, for example, doing it in DPP, you've got mentors and people coming to help you along the way. So build your experience, I think, before you go. Yeah. But otherwise, I agree with what Charlotte was saying too. Like, make sure you have a bit of money behind you for those first couple of months, and also what Emma was saying, build your networks in advance as well. Like, if you have a long-term plan, you can start networking and start building those relationships with people that will brief you once you go to the bar.
Yeah, I think all of that comes into this heading of set yourself up to succeed,
Yeah.
whatever that means for you. So if you're a person who, I know I worry about the money all the time. So if I can do what I can to resolve that, I can then focus on other things.
Yeah.
If I haven't got my family situation sorted such that I don't know where people are meant to be at a particular time, or where people are being picked up, or where we're living, for instance, then that's a stress that is on top of my work that I don't like. So whatever it takes for you, whatever you think you need to succeed, put those steps in place, I think is what we're all saying, before you get here, so that you can maximize your chance at, during that first year, really kicking some goals and feeling like, yes, I did make the right decision. Yes, it's been tough this year, but I feel like I made the right choice and I'm sticking with my guns. Getting lots of questions about financials, and look, I agree. I'm always one of these people who says, let's keep it real. You know, what are we doing here? The difficulty is with how much you make in your first year is there's two sides of that ledger. One is how much do you make, as in your fees, and the other side of the coin is how much do you spend. And by that, I mean professionally, not personally. So, for instance, there's 58 million ways of setting up your practice. You can rent a room. You could rent a whole room. You could rent a part of a room. You could hot desk. You could simply be a door tenant, or you could want the palatial, you know, multiple windows, lots of space with a couch in your room. And the cost of all of those choices will impact greatly on what's in your pocket at the end of the day. I know that some people, you know, the range is great. I know that some people didn't make any money in their first year. I know people who made, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in their first year. It all depends on the work that you're presented with. And that depends on, I think, those steps that you put in place to succeed. You know, people end up in the bar at a whole different point in their life and for whole different reasons. In the introduction, I didn't tell you my story, but the GFC, I was living in New York and the GFC hit. And so I came home in a bit of a crisis. And of course, no one was employing. So I thought, well, I've always wanted to go to the bar. Let's go to the bar now. So in terms of this wasn't, whilst it was a plan in the back of my head, coming at the point I came was not a planned maneuver. In fact, I was in a bit of crisis at the time, but, you know, we all survive, and, you know, you make the best of it that you can. So don't feel that there's a right time, and don't feel that if you're coming because of a need rather than a desire, that affects your ability to succeed, because I don't think it does. We're being asked about subscription fees and software. What do people use? Charlotte, what do you use?
So I use BarBooks, which I think a lot of people use because readers get it for $1 in the first year. So you get sort of in on it and then you can't stop using it. That's sort of my, yeah, that's my accounting sort of and matter software. And then I use OneDrive to store all my actual documents, like templates, the briefs and material I've got. And then that way I can sort of work from anywhere. I've got an iPad and I can access it. So that's sort of how I've set myself up.
Okay. Greg, do you use any other software other than those?
No, like in terms of the accounting stuff, as I said, my list, the clerks look after all that sort of stuff. So Word, like that's, yeah, PDF and Word, that's pretty much, that's it.
Yeah, cool. Emma, do you use an e-briefing system or any other software or subscriptions?
Through Heaven's List, we use an electronic briefing program, which is really good because people can just upload documents as they receive them, and then the brief just gets automatically updated. I have one legal subscription, and I looked around at you know, the cost for all of the different ones. In Queensland, if you're you can just go to the Supreme Court Library and access a lot of those resources for free. So if that's not something that you personally are able to spend the money on, that's certainly not a reason that you should decide not to go to the bar. I don't think, the only other thing that I use, because I've done a lot of social media, I've got a Canva subscription for when I'm doing social media posts and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Jessica, what about you? What do you use?
For accounting, I use Xero. But the only other subscription I found quite useful is called Calendly. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but
Yes.
I sort of got sick of, you get sort of emails from people and they'll say, email your availability for a conference. And then you've got to like go through your diary and type out Monday between this time, Tuesday between this time, and type it all out for every solicitor asked to book a conference. And so I found Calendly works quite well because they can go in, they can see when I'm available and just schedule it themselves as to whenever it suits them. And I can block it out, you know, if I've got my own personal stuff, I can just block out times, and when I got caught, I can just block it out. I found that quite useful.
So that's helpful too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could just, I mean, you don't have to have subscriptions, as you know, Emma's suggestion of going to the library to get subscription, to get access to resources is a great choice when you're starting out and you don't want to be spending money. An Excel spreadsheet will manage your ins and outs just as well as Xero will. It won't create a lovely pie chart, but it will manage your ins and outs, you know, until you can get to a point where you feel like, well, that's an expense that I feel justified in spending. I must say, I'll confess, at 12 years at the bar, I still do my own spreadsheets. They're all beautifully coloured and I love spending time with them. So you can get by without them, or you could just be as crazy as I am, one or the other. We've got about 4 minutes to go. So if you've got burning questions, send them on through. One of the questions is, do you have to have chambers or can you work from home? And are those things mutually exclusive, I suppose, is the other question. Greg, do you're on a floor, a crime floor. Do you also work from home?
Well, yes, just because we have to at the moment. Otherwise, I'd be going in, I would say. Look, for me personally, no, look, if I mean, if the choice was there, I'd be going into chambers every day. I like having that separation because it can get quite intense. So
yes,
yeah,
that works for you. Yeah,
works for me, but it's personal preference. Like, I mean, if it doesn't stop anyone from working from home if they like. But yeah, and I just realised, I think I've just been told of me trying to answer questions. I've been giving them just to the panelists as opposed to everybody else.
That is okay. That is okay. We've been asked what the success rate for new barristers is. I suppose it depends on what you define success as. But I don't think there's talk to me younger barristers than I am. I don't think there's a huge dropout rate if that's what you're defining success as. I don't think a lot of people leave after the first year. Am I wrong about that, Charlotte or Jess?
I hope not. I've been at the bar for maybe 4 months, so none of my colleagues have dropped out yet. I have heard of, in the couple of years above me, 1 or 2 people just not liking it or for whatever reason not continuing that work, but it's not the end of the world because most of them just go and be a solicitor or they do something else. So it's not for everyone and that's fine, but hopefully the success rate is good.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, isn't it? It depends on how you define success. If you come and you don't like it, it's not failure to go and make another choice. That's just making a different choice because you tried it and you didn't think it was for you, you know, for whatever reason, or your circumstances meant that now wasn't the right time. You've done your course, you tried it for a while, you might go back and be a solicitor for a while or go and teach in academia or something and then come back to the private bar later. There's no that's not a sign of not succeeding. That's just making choices to fit your life. So I suppose it depends. And I think we are all, I think the one thing about barristers is we all kind of have a little A-type personality buried deep inside, and it comes out a lot. And so we do tend to define things in terms of success and failure. And that can be really hard on ourselves, our own definitions of success and failure. And you don't need to add the extra pressure. Is there a time frame of being at the bar in Victoria? 10 years. Greg, that's got to be a question for you. Can you come before you're 10 years admitted?
Well, I mean, I said earlier, I think I sat the exam before I was even admitted. So there's nothing stopping you. As soon as you've got you're admitted, you can sign the roll effectively. So as long as you're admitted before you sign the roll.
Do you have to be admitted as a solicitor before you come to the bar?
Yes, yeah. So admitted as an Australian lawyer, you don't have to have a practicing certificate, but yeah, that's one of the requirements. There's no time frame.
Okay, cool. And for us in Queensland, ladies, you just have to have been admitted as a solicitor, as Australian legal practitioner before coming to the bar. Is that correct?
There is a time frame with the exams. So from when you pass the exams, just if you are looking at time frames, so you have to. You get offered a place, and I think then you would need to request to defer your place. So that is a time frame to consider when looking at coming to the bar.
But there's no time frame in terms of how long I have to be a solicitor for before I come to the bar, is there? No, I didn't think there was. One of the questions is, what's the percentage success rate in trial? That depends on how crappy your brief is, because the cab rank rule, we've had a question about the cab rank rule. You know, everyone deserves representation, and the way the cab rank rule works is that if you have the skills and the time and people are willing to pay your fee, you have to take the gig. But it could mean that you're taking the gig on a losing case, and that's not whether I win or lose that trial isn't altogether up to me. It's up to the facts of the case as well. I can do the very best I can with the parameters that I'm given, but sometimes people have done it and or not done it, or frequently not done it, which is a problem. I'm just conscious of the time, Jackie. I don't know what the rules are in relation to, I obviously have a problem with being on time, but I know that you're very good with being on time.
Well, my husband would argue that with you, but I try and in my professional work, yes, I try. I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know that most of you, well, Jane, you've been in court and you've all been being busy barristers all day, and I'm sure that you do have lives to get back to. We've had some fabulous questions, and with nearly 100 people online watching this discussion, we haven't unfortunately been able to get to all of them. Maybe I can share some of the questions with our panel afterwards and get maybe a few bullet points, and then I could circulate those. Obviously that will take we'll allow a bit of time for that assignment. Poor Greg didn't know what he was getting into when he said yes today. So thank you very much. I know that I've been sitting here listening, just hanging on your every word, because I really don't think that this is a topic that is discussed very much at university. We're also focused in getting through our law degrees and then becoming a lawyer, that this sort of, for a lot of people, the next part of their career isn't really discussed as openly and honestly as we have this evening. So I really do, I found it fascinating myself, and I hope that the audience has too. So thank you very much. There's lots of thank yous coming through from everyone. So on behalf of the audience listening, Emma and Greg and Charlotte and Jessica and our fabulous moderator this evening, Jane, thank you very much for your time. This has been recorded. It will be distributed to everyone who registered for our Careers Academy this week. And don't forget, people, that there's lots of other sessions coming to you later on in the week. And if you do have any questions for our panel, you can certainly pop those through the College of Law. I will be more than happy to pass those on. But thank you very much. I'm sorry that we didn't get to all the questions, but it was a really fascinating discussion with lots of great information. A lot of the questions that you are asking, you might also like to check with your state bar association. And I'm sure that a lot of those questions about the specifics, when you can take exams and the cost and the timings, will be available through your state bar association as well. So thank you very much. Tyler has said, you're all brilliant. I do not know how much how you manage to find time for things like this, much appreciated. So I think I will take that as on behalf of our audience as a thank you from everyone. So thank you. I'll end the discussion for everyone, and I hope everyone enjoys a lovely evening and a nice dinner. You all deserve it. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.